What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. Hope your Friday is going well. And I want to talk about a recent trend in college football and how it affects the pros because things have changed over the last couple years with college football as it relates to how it feeds talent into the NFL. And I want to explore this a little bit. I don't think I'm really saying anything here that is shocking, but I think this needs to be understood as much as possible for the time being. So I want to discuss what I see going on right now. And now that we've had a couple of seasons to see this start to develop, I feel fairly comfortable saying this is going to become a trend as long as the NCAA commits to this system. And by system, I mean NIL. So NIL basically allows these players to get paid when they're playing college football. And the idea is pretty simple, right? Like the players are contributing personally and individually to the profitability of their universities because when a player for a college football team is doing well and helping his team win, that college makes more money because their team is having success. So therefore, those players get to negotiate for some amount of money. And the best players, the most valuable players, get actually a lot of money. Not NFL money, but it's close to NFL money. And especially for a lot of these guys who might be thinking about going into the NFL, they're going to be stuck on those rookie contracts for a few years. Then they're really looking at that NIL money and thinking there's not a big difference here. So this affects the feeder of talent from college to the pros pretty significantly in obvious ways. But here's the way this is starting to manifest. And I really want to dive into this a little bit here because understanding this and figuring out how to maneuver through this is going to be very important. And what I'm about to say mostly applies to quarterbacks, but it does apply to other positions as well. Quarterback, I think it's the most important because here's the thing. In the NFL, quarterbacks get paid like crazy, but you can't get paid until after your third year. And if you're not an elite quarterback, you often have to wait until after your fourth or fifth year. So previously, it worked very simply. If you were a college quarterback and you had eyes on making big NFL money, your only goal was to get out of college football as fast as possible so you could get on a rookie contract and start making your way towards the ability to get that monster second contract down the road. So you would see quarterbacks who were clearly desirable, clearly had potential, clearly were interesting prospects declare before they were really ready, before they were really highly touted, before they were guys who were necessarily guaranteed to go really high in the draft. It felt like every year there were at least a few desirable, promising, high potential quarterbacks that you could get in the third, the fourth, or the fifth round. Because if you felt like you were a good, desirable quarterback prospect, you didn't necessarily really care that much if you went super high. You just wanted to get to the NFL. But now in this new system, we are not seeing that. These players, because they know they can get paid if they're good by their college team, are now reevaluating their priorities. And the way I see it, here's how it's starting to go down. If you are a quarterback that is potentially very desirable in the NFL, like you have NFL talent, you have an NFL arm, NFL mobility, NFL stature, like you are clearly a quarterback who has a chance to be very successful in the NFL. Previously, yeah, a lot of those guys would go early in the draft. A lot of those guys would earn high draft status based off their play. But previously, those guys would just go to the NFL. And if they got drafted a little bit lower than they expected, then, oh well, they'll make it up later. They just have to get a chance and then take advantage of their chance. But feels like now players aren't doing that. What we are seeing from a lot of these quarterbacks who aren't all the way up the draft boards yet, but have the opportunity to, they just stick around in college football until they're there. Like the list of players that have either entered the transfer portal, or decided to stay with their college football team, who probably would have been drafted, some of whom I think would have been drafted in the top 100, is very robust. You've got guys like Riley Leonard, Cam Ward, Quinn Ewers. I don't know if he would have been drafted, but guys like Dylan Gabriel and Kyle McCord, they just hang around in college football now. And the reason why is very clear, I think. They can still make some money. They can make money comparable to what they were going to make in the NFL if they got drafted. And the idea is keep going to college, keep playing for college teams until you have that magical season that boosts your draft stock high enough for you to feel good about going in the first round or high in the first round. So the effect here, the effect of the NIL on the NFL is we are not seeing as many desirable quarterbacks be available in the later rounds. What we are seeing is those guys who know that they're potentially good, who know they have a chance to be a first round pick one day, they just stay in college football until they're a first round pick. Like Riley Leonard, if Riley Leonard had come out for this draft, probably would have been like a third round pick. And he's good. I like Riley Leonard a lot. I think he's good. So if he had been that third round pick, he would have eventually gotten a chance to play. And I think he would have proven himself to be good. And he would have been able to get a second contract and been an NFL player. But in his mind, I think what's going on here, the reason why players like him are going back to college, because apparently Leonard's going to transfer to either Notre Dame or Ohio State. He hasn't decided yet, but it is believed he'll stay in college football. Is why would I do that when I can just stay for another year until I'm actually a first round guy? Like, I believe he can be a first round guy, no problem. He just has to stay healthy and be on a really good team, which if he goes to Notre Dame or Ohio State, he's got a great chance. So gone are the days, and I don't want to say completely gone, but I think that over the next several years, we're going to see this repeat itself over and over and over again. And the effect is going to be this. If you want a really desirable quarterback prospect, there's no more there's not really going to be any, oh, let's take this guy in the fourth round who has a lot of potential, but it never really manifested because he was in a weird situation in college football. He didn't have a good coach. He didn't have good receivers. That's not going to happen as much anymore because those players are just going to transfer to another school until they find the right situation for them. Like I'm looking at a guy like Joe Milton, my guy. I haven't heard very much about what Joe Milton plans to do. I know he's been in college football for a while, but if he does declare for the draft, he might kind of be the last of a dying breed. The high potential quarterbacks who didn't produce enough in college football to actually get drafted high, so you can get them in a later round and it feels like we got a potential franchise guy with some really special traits. So I find this to be very interesting because I'm a Huskies fan and Seahawks fan. As a Huskies fan, I think the NIL stuff is great because it allows you to keep your team together. But as a Seahawks fan, this is kind of frustrating. This was supposed to be an excellent quarterback class, and it feels like half the quarterbacks are now going to stay back in college football for another year because of everything I just talked about. They can still make money in college football, and they don't have to worry so much about starting the clock on their rookie contract so they can get to the second contract. So when we get to the draft, I know there's going to be a lot of urgency for the Seahawks to get a quarterback of the future. Not necessarily even because of Geno Smith being not good or anything. Like Geno Smith, you might think he's good, you might think he's bad, you might think he's average or whatever. But I think even the people who like Geno Smith are definitely thinking, let's find a quarterback of the future because Geno Smith is kind of old and he slips a little bit due to age and he's not really going to be somebody you can lean on anymore. Like he's already kind of maximized what he can get out of himself being a good quarterback. So there's going to be a lot of urgency to try to find that really desirable quarterback that you feel great about handing your franchise to. And before this season started, I was looking at it and thinking to myself, I think we're going to be able to get that guy in the third or fourth round because this QB class is so good. But with all these guys deciding to go back to college for another year, that's not really panning out. Like, if you want to get your quarterback of the future, you really might just have to use your first round pick on him. And obviously, everybody's going to have different opinions on different prospects, but the big three for me of blue chippers that you can feel really good about making your franchise quarterback are Caleb, May, and a Daniels. And those three guys, they might be gone in those three guys could all be gone in the top 10 for all I know. And then after that, you've still got some guys who are interesting, like Penix and Nix, but the that third tier of guys who were interesting, intriguing, talented, fun, but didn't quite do enough in college football to get up to tier 2 or tier 1, like the Riley Leonards, like the Cam Wards, maybe Quinn Ewers. Honestly, I thought Quinn Ewers was probably already in tier 2 just based off what he did this year. They're all like, no, I'm just going to stay back in college. I'm going to stay here until I'm a first round pick or until I realize it's just never going to happen. Like, I'm not going to the NFL until I have to. I'm in no hurry. Like, we're even seeing this with guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm sure you guys heard the other day. He said, I'm not sure if I'm going to the NFL. I might want to come back because I can get money that is significant. It's not as much as my rookie deal, but it will be significant, and I want to beat Michigan one of these years. I want another shot at beating Michigan. So Marvin Harrison Jr. is looking at getting a pretty massive rookie contract in the NFL, and apparently he might just be like, nah, I'll wait another year for that. I don't need that right now. I know he comes from a wealthy family because his dad's obviously senior, but it's a new world, and I just wanted to spend some time discussing this a little bit. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Just something to think about. Like, I really thought that this was going to be a quarterback class where the Seahawks could get a really intriguing franchise guy in like round 3 or round 4. And it's starting to look like that's not going to happen, and it might never happen again. Because if a guy's an intriguing potential franchise guy, he's not going in round 3 anymore. He is going to go in round 1, even if he has to stay in college football for 7 years. Because what's the hurry? As long as you're doing well in college football, you're still going to make millions. And the money that you would get extra out of your rookie deal is when going to the NFL is not significant enough when you know that you can just stay here, still make millions, and maybe get more millions because you eventually get your draft stock up to like first round status. Penix is a great example. Penix could have come out last year and I think been a second or third round pick. He went back. He has a chance to be a first round pick. I don't know if he will be, but he's got an opportunity to be a first round pick now. So that's a great example. I think that in previous years before NIL money came into play, a guy like Cam Ward might have declared last year, and he definitely would have declared this year. A guy like Riley Leonard would have been in the NFL by now, I think. A guy like Quinn Ewers definitely would have been in the NFL after this season. You take what you can get in those situations because you're not making any money in college football. Well, now you're making money in college football, and these guys have a lot more freedom to stay in college that extra year, the extra 2 years, the extra 3 years. All right, just something to keep in mind here as the Seahawks do eventually try to find their next franchise quarterback of the future. It's not going to be something you can do cheap. It's not going to be something you can do efficiently. You're probably, from now on, going to have to spend primo draft capital. Let me know what you think. Go Hawks. Just trying to read the room here, read the landscape, and figure out what might be coming.